Well, today I was exposed to the flu. I was confronted by an obviously frustrated policeman who hasn't filled his quota and was just picking on anybody doing the slightest thing. What you're actually saying is, I forgot to remember that I'm neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it, and that I'm invulnerable, and that I wasn't confronted by anything that made a statement about my safety. And therefore, I was not confronted by anything I need to give a second thought to or defend myself against. Illness and disease and suffering are suggestions that were presented to you that you became distracted by, and in the face of them, you abandoned the clear, conscious experience that you are at the point of perfection, and that what you are is incapable of being affected positively or negatively by suggestions, by that which doesn't have any source. There is no order of difficulty in miracles, because miracles uncover the fact that all forms of threat are imaginary, unreal, sourceless. Period. Continuing. When you hear only one voice, you are never called on to sacrifice. On the contrary, by enabling yourselves to hear the Holy Spirit in others, you can learn from their experiences and gain from them without experiencing them yourselves. Now I want you to be clear here too. It is possible to become intellectually and spiritually and metaphysically confused to the point where you would read this to say, on the contrary, by enabling yourselves to hear the Holy Spirit in others who are attacking you, you can learn from their experiences. No. By enabling yourselves to hear the Holy Spirit in others like me. The Holy Spirit in others who are letting the Holy Spirit speak for them. By listening to the Holy Spirit in others who are awake like your own guides, you can learn from their experiences and gain from them without experiencing them yourselves. In other words, you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the atonement. All you have to do is let yourself companion with one who has, so that you might learn from their experience. The Holy Spirit never speaks through your brother by means of his ignorance of the truth about himself, acted out toward you as a call for love that really means misbehaving. So don't try to figure out what the Holy Spirit is trying to say to you by means of your brother's bad behavior. Is anyone not clear about what I've just said? I mean, if you are, please say so, and we will make it clearer. Okay. Again, by enabling yourselves to hear the Holy Spirit in others, you can learn from their experiences and gain from them without experiencing them yourselves. That is because the Holy Spirit is one, meaning infinite, all-inclusive, and anyone who listens is inevitably led to demonstrate his, the Holy Spirit's, way for all. The moment you become clear, the moment you decide for truth with me, you lessen the density of the dream by withdrawing from the mutually agreed upon definitions, and so your decision has been for everyone. Continuing, you are not persecuted. The suggestion is that you're persecuted. But you're not. You're neither behind the point of perfection, nor advancing toward it. You're at that point. And that point is the living presence and movement of God. Being the only mind there is, right where you are, which is incapable of being split, and therefore is still whole, and doesn't need to be fixed. Persecution is nonsense. You are not persecuted, nor was I. You are not asked to repeat my experiences because the Holy Spirit, whom we share, makes this unnecessary. To use my experiences constructively, however, you must still follow my example in how to perceive them. My brothers and yours are constantly engaged in justifying the unjustifiable. In other words, they're still hypnotized. They're still fooled into believing that they're vulnerable and that they must protect themselves. They've abandoned the conscious experience of being at the point of perfection, which they can't leave. And they are caught up in a dream of defending themselves against something that doesn't exist. My brothers and yours are constantly engaged in justifying the unjustifiable. My one lesson, which I must teach as I learned, is that no perception which is out of accord with the judgment of the Holy Spirit can be justified. Any perception which is out of accord with the judgment of the Holy Spirit is a judgment made from a state of deluded conscious awareness, where you've already taken the bait. You're already under. You've already lost perspective, divinely speaking. Continuing, I undertook to show this was true in a very extreme case, merely because it would serve as a good teaching aid to those whose temptations to give in to anger and assault would not be so extreme. I will, with God, that none of his sons should suffer. If you will, with God, that none of your brothers should suffer, are you going to go out and find a better antidote to the flu? Or are you going to address the fundamental problem? That your brother is neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. That he is at this instant, no matter how he's defining himself, at that point. And he needs to be willing to allow a shift to occur wherein he's willing to conceive of himself from the point of perfection and be from the point of perfection in which he's untouchable, unreachable by any threat, and in whose presence threat cannot present itself, in whose presence persecution is meaningless, because he hasn't taken the bait because he hasn't taken the bait. And because he hasn't taken the bait, he can see the bait for what it is. And can address the motive that caused a brother to dangle the bait in the first place, so that the brother can withdraw the bait. Because he's not interested in deluding you either. Continuing. Remember that the Holy Spirit is the communication link between God the Father and his separated sons. If you will listen to his voice, that which is nothing more than your right mind, you will know that you cannot either hurt or be hurt, and that many need your blessing to help them hear this for themselves. Your brothers need to hear it just as you need to hear it right now. When you perceive, continuing, when you perceive only this need in them and do not respond to any other, you will have learned of me and will be as eager to share your learning as I am. The crucifixion cannot be shared because it is the symbol of projection. But the resurrection is the symbol of sharing. Because the reawakening of every son of God is necessary to enable the sonship to know its wholeness. Only this is knowledge. The message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear. Teach only love, for that is what you are. So, how do you teach love? You teach it by not taking the bait, not becoming inebriated or hypnotized into being in a constant state of defending yourself against ghosts. Oh, you say, but I can see the germ. They can show me the germs under the microscope. And they can show me this person's lungs after they died and had an autopsy, and I can see what the germs did to the tissues. What do you mean I can't be persecuted? What do you mean I'm not vulnerable? You know what? You're going to start having new reports in the news. That demonstrate the other side. That when you stop taking the bait, when you do not play into the suggestions that come to you, that you need to join the mutually agreed upon definitions about how germs and bodies and matter work, bodies that seemed to have been affected by germs will have a spontaneous remission. What you will call physical healing will occur. And if, as it were possible, that someone were to die who was open to being healed, so that a lung could be looked at, which had earlier been examined and been found to be in a great state of deterioration, they would find everything there to be absolutely flawless. In spite of the fact that the mutually agreed upon definitions about how germs and matter work could be demonstrated and seen under a microscope. It's time for new things to happen besides sin, disease, and death. And they can happen because none of you is behind the point of perfection, and therefore flawed and inadequate and vulnerable. And you're not advancing toward it, and doing pretty well, if I might say so, and spiritualizing yourself wonderfully, but it might be another 1,000 lifetimes before you make it. You're not advancing toward it either. You're at that point, and you must understand yourself therefrom, from there. You must be willing to open yourself up to the conscious experience of being there. And even if you're not having the total conscious experience of being there, you must dare to voice to yourself that you're not available to join in mutually agreed upon definitions without running them by the Holy Spirit first. And that means that you must object. You must object on the spot when these suggestions come to you out of your memory, or when they're presented to you on the spot through the media or your brothers or sisters. It may be fun to go to a show that a hypnotist is putting on, and it may be fun to watch the guy walk around on the stage thinking he's a rooster, cackling at the hens and crowing and strutting his stuff. It may be funny, but you know he's suffering a delusion. Your delusions are no more real but they seem not to be funny to you. And for the most part, they seem not to be funny to anyone around you. And it's important for you to stop taking them seriously and objecting to them, so that you might become unhypnotized. And thus demonstrate that you have joined with me in this decision. And demonstrate, along with me, that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. You don't have to hang on a cross. You don't seem to have to die and then resurrect so that you can demonstrate for your brothers that you are not available to see them as persecutors, and that you're not available to see yourself as persecuted because you've insisted not to take the bait in the first place. That their very behavior suggests to you that you should do. Good stuff. That's not Paul, that's me. The truth is wonderful. And the truth is radical. The statement, "In defenselessness my safety lies," you see, really doesn't mean presenting no defense in the face of threat and letting threat walk all over you. Your safety lies in your unwillingness to abandon the point of perfection that you're in, which is a place in which you see nothing to be defended against, and the place in which the apparent call for defense can be recognized as a suggestion being made by a brother who's ignorant of the point of perfection that he is in, and who is in need not of retaliation, but of the loving expression of truth in language that he or she can hear, that helps him realize that his defenselessness does not mean abandoning bad behavior that he thinks is going to defend his safety, but in not forgetting who he is and thinking a new definition of himself and believing it, and as a result having moved into a state of delusion. And you will be able to be a healing presence. And you will be able to teach him how not to take the bait, how to recognize the bait, and pass on the gift to the brothers, his brothers and sisters who are dangling bait in front of him. Okay, I look forward to being with you next week.